Hi, welcome to my TV journey with Lola, and my name is Lola. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm actually so excited to be here again. I am back. I'm better than before. Hopefully better than before. For those who don't know, I had a podcast like 5 years ago and it was fun. It was when I was younger, I was, more free and I was louder. But now I am back with a new podcast with a new format as well. And I'm just so excited. I'm really excited to just start this and do this. Like, I'm even nervous right now. I don't know why I'm nervous because I've like done this all my life, but I am a little bit nervous. But yes, for those who don't know, my name is Lola, and I am an Irish producer who is, living her best life in London. Well, as we get into it, you can decide whether I'm living my best life or not. But who is working in TV, and this podcast is just about my experience in TV. And also, there's a few things I have later on I'm going to tell you about, where I'm going to bring on different types of people, different creators from all around the world, from the Middle East, from Africa, and from London, who will come on this podcast and just share their experiences working in TV and film. So you can see this podcast as a kind of behind the scenes look into your favorite shows and into your favorite television programs, because I'm going to bring all creators from all around the world to talk about the shows that you're watching and give us a little like insight snippet, like a little bit of a tea, a little bit of a gossip into your favorite show. So yes, so I hope, you guys really do enjoy this. And, if you're working in TV or film and, you want to be involved, my Instagram, slide in my DMs, and I'll definitely bring you on. But yeah, it's just to share all the ups and downs of TVs, all the behind the scenes, just everything that you can think of. And yeah, and I just want to share that with you guys and share that with, whatever audience is listening. And I cannot like start this podcast or get into it without talking about our industry right now. So I know our industry right now, especially in the UK, it's very, very hard. There's a lot of people that are struggling, a lot of creative people, they're producers, they're directors. This job shortage in TV and film is hitting everyone, including myself, which I will later on share in the podcast. So anyone out there who's listening and you're, looking for your next job, looking for, jobs are not out there. Like if you go on Talent Manager, I remember back in the day, Talent Manager used to post about like, 20, 30 jobs a day. And now they post about 2 or 3. So I know it is hard, and I cannot, go into this podcast being like, oh my God, it's all great. And da, 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 da. There are people out there who are losing their job or switching to another industry. I just want to say, it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And, a lot of us have a love for TV, and, that's never going to die. And we're going to be fine. We're going to be a-okay. I'm praying for all of us. We're going to make it through. I'm praying for all of us. And, I read an article in The Guardian last week, and it was talking about how a lot of senior producers are taking shelf stacking jobs in like, Tesco's and stuff. And I cannot even begin to imagine how hard it is for different people in this industry right now. But as I've been told, I've not personally felt this, but as I've been told and I'm seeing, it's definitely picking up back up again slowly but surely. But so if you're in the industry or thinking about getting into the industry, you are one tough cookie. You are one tough cookie. And I see you, and I hope you see me too. We see each other. Yes. So this podcast is just to celebrate, all the amazing people who have worked in the industry over the years and who have put all their creativity and all their strengths and all their every ounce. Anyone that's working in TV knows how hard it is to work. The hours are not the most favorable. The job is intense. There's a lot of competition, but I would not do anything different with my life. I cannot imagine investing in anything different with my life. And I know a lot of us feel the same out there. So This podcast is to celebrate the minds of people, the creativity of people, and most importantly, to celebrate the shows we love and the people behind it, the people that make that show the show. So it's not just about the presenter, it's not just about who is the face of it. It takes a whole village to make a show. It takes a whole village to make content that people will tune to. So this is for all my directors, producers, electricians, cameramen. This is for us as a fellow producer. This podcast is for us and it's to celebrate us. And I cannot wait to bring the different guests, all the different guests from all parts of the world here. So watch this space for exciting guests and exciting topics and exciting conversation. So yeah. And now on our first episode, we're going to have our first guest talking for the first time anywhere worldwide. Drum roll, please. The guest is me. So just to start this podcast off, I was like, let me talk about a bit about my experience and what I have been doing and what my career has looked like as someone who's Irish Nigerian, as someone who's Irish Nigerian living in London. Like, just talk about my experience and all the things I have seen in the industry and what I have learned. What I have learned and how I got to where I'm not saying I'm at the most, senior, but I've been here for like the last 7-8 years. So I think I have a few things that may be useful for anyone, who's coming into the industry or just needs a bit of advice. So, and also just to spill the tea behind all the different shows I've worked on. So yeah, so the first episode, it's me. I'll be interviewing myself. So let's get into it. So how did I get into this industry? Weird fact, I actually studied law, and all my life I wanted to be a lawyer because I wanted to fight for the people. I wanted to speak out. I wanted to, just really, take on cases that were, that would make an impact in the world. And all my uncles from my mom's side, I think we have about 6 lawyers on my mom's side, and I wanted to do that too. But then after I finished my undergraduate degree, I was like, you know what? Maybe law is not for me because that's reading a lot of books. That's a lot of words and that's a lot of learning. And shout out to all the lawyers out there. I know it is hard. I don't know how it is hard. That's hard work. But, and then I just fell into, so I became a social media events officer at uni for my law class, and I was also the student representative. And that's where I was like, oh, okay, like, there's something else that I might enjoy, which is social media, which is putting events together. All that to say, I fell into journalism and I did my master's in journalism at City University in London, which is an amazing school. And I would definitely recommend it over and over and over again. It's definitely a school that teaches you what you need to get to where you want to get to. So that's how I fell into journalism. And from there, I did my internship at Channel 5 as a A&E, which is an assistant news editor. And from there, I went to ITV, where I worked as an A&E, and then I went to Twitter, where I worked as a curator. And that was one of the most exciting projects that I've ever worked on, because that was back when Twitter and was not owned by Elon. But what happened was they were creating an African creation team, and they were just launching it for the very first time, and they wanted someone who can come in and, kind of tell them about, African Twitter and Nigerian Twitter and how they could, grow in this sector. And I was brought on for that, and that was an amazing experience. And from there, I went to NBC. I was staff, and then COVID happened. After COVID happened, and then I was working from home. And I don't know, I think COVID did something to everyone's brains, because after COVID, I was like, I need to spread my wings. Like, I want to do something that is more creative. I want to, spend more time doing documentaries. And I just had this epiphany. And lo and behold, I would not recommend this to anybody. Absolute Nobody do what I do. Nobody do what I did. I'm sorry. Which is to go into your office on a random Tuesday and quit your job with just a little bit of savings in my bank account. I went in. I was like, oh my God. I even like cried. I was like, oh my God, I want to quit my job. Da, 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 da. Just so much going on. COVID, da, da, da. COVID is over. I want to really find what I did all of that. I had a big old meltdown, crying, 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 quit my job. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go out and, really try to find work in documentary, make content, something that, I can be proud of. I can beat my chest and be like, I produced that. Child. I like, I, my reason I'm laughing is because it did not work out as smoothly as I thought it would work out. Because then I was unemployed for 6 months. And that was the first time since I was 18 years old. Okay, maybe not 18, since I was 21, because no, since I was 18. Yes, all right. Since I was 18, that I did not have a job because in uni I used to, do some child minding. So that was the first time in my life I did not have a job. I did not have a prospect. I was just lost. I was really lost. And to be honest, that was, a little bit of depression kicked in. So when it came to work, I felt like, oh my God, I just quit my job. I have no prospects. I was applying to anything, everything. Nothing was working out. I was for like 6 months to like 6 to 8 months. That was my feeling. Like job, like work wise, I was like, oh my God, I have just tanked my career. I've tanked everything that I've worked so hard for. It was not a good place. On the other end, because I quit my job, I had more time to be outside. So I was, in terms of family and friends, I got to spend more time with my family. I got to spend more time with my friends. My friends from Ireland came over. Shout out to Naomi and Roslyn. Like even my friends who I was living with at the time was with me. So I went to the gym. So I got more time to spend on Segi and thinking about what does Segi want? What does Segi Lola want to do? Like all of that. So there was a lot of emotional growth in that time, but there was no career growth. And that really scared me. And yeah, and after 8, 9 months, I was like emailing every documentary company, every executive producer that I could find on LinkedIn. I was like, hey, I'm from TV. I'm from a news background and I want to get into documentary making. Like I want to get into making long form content. Help me, help me, help me. And lo and behold, someone did reply. You can check my Gmail. I think I sent over like 100 emails. It was not easy at all. Lo and behold, someone reached out. Someone got back to me and say, "Hey, I'm not hiring in my company right now, but I can pass your CV on to someone at ITN who is in charge of long form content, and they can." If they need you and they can reach out to you. So he did that. And then he passed my CV on to ITN and so that's how ITN had my CV. And I heard nothing back for like 2-3 weeks until ITN reached back and say, hey, we're working on this show which we cannot tell you about because it's under NDA, with a celebrity that we cannot tell you about because it's under NDA. Do you want to come and interview? They kind of gave me what the show is about. It's a travel series with a celebrity. I was on my laptop that night and be like, travel series celebrity, like just on my laptop. And then I was like, oh my God, yes, I'd love to interview. And then the director of the show, who is the wonderful and amazing Neil Ferguson, and again, one of the best bosses I have ever worked with in my life. Like, I don't know if he sees me as a friend, but I definitely see him as a friend and a lifelong friend. So sorry, Neil. So yeah, so Neil reached, the director Neil, then reached out to me and then was like, we're working on a show. We cannot tell you who it is. It's a travel series. And the celebrity who's in charge of this travel series is going to be going to Nigeria. And then I was like, okay. I was like, and then they were like, would you like to come and interview for this job? And I was like, okay. And I literally, from the time he said, do you want to interview for this job, to like a week later when the interview was, I studied. When I tell you, I studied everything about Nigeria. I studied everything about travel series. I studied. I was practicing interview questions with my housemate at the time. I was studying every single day because this was like, I was in a hole of no job, nothing, no prospects. So I was like, if I do not get this, I don't know where my life is going. So my interview day was very nerve wracking. I was nervous, but I was prepared because I had taken a whole week to prepare for this because I was like, I have no other option. Like, I need to get this job. Not only because I'm Irish Nigerian, but just because, like, that is even the number one because I'm Irish. Like, what a project to work on that is about my people, my heritage. Like, what, and it is a job that it wasn't in news. It's my proper first job in documentary or travel series. And I was like, oh my God, I need to get this job. So I got the job and then I started working on it. Oh, I forgot to tell you, the celebrity was Michael Palin. And that's how I got my job as a associate producer on Michael Palin in Nigeria, the travel series. When I tell you, when I received the call, I cried. I cried, I screamed, I cried, and my roommates had to come and pick me up the floor because it was 9 months or, 6 to 9 months of just applying, and I finally got the job. So it was, yeah, it was an amazing moment. And I would just like, want to share some behind the scenes for you about it. So I will kind of tell you a bit about what my job was. So my job was to basically plan the show, set up logistics, get characters for the show, set up locations, set up ideas, basically make with Neil, me and Neil worked together to make a show. And it was just both of us. There was no, people think, oh my God, the series is so huge. And people thought there's like 5, 6. No, it was just me and Neil, my boss. Everything in that show was either me or Neil's idea. And that is it. It was us just putting our heads down and just being like, hey, we need to do this and setting it up. So every idea that I had or Neil had, my job was to make it, to create it, make it into television. And that went from having the cooties on the show. And that went from filming at, one of the biggest churches in the world at Redeem. And we were the first Western crew in the world to film at Redeem Church. And that went from going to the north of Nigeria, which not a lot of people go to. We got to interview the Emir of Kano. For people who don't know, that's like the king of Kano. And yeah, so it was an amazing and challenging experience. So what you first do is you go on a research trip. So me and Neil went on a research trip by ourselves in a car with security and basically drove or flew around Nigeria. And every idea that we had, our job was to visit or kind of be like, okay, let's visit here. We want to go here. Let's visit here. We want to see this person. Let's see this person. Let's do like a quick interview. It's kind of like a mock trial of what the show will actually look like. Like, we pretended to be Michael going on this trip and meeting people and talking to people. So yeah, so we went on a research trip first, and then some months later we then went to go film it. And filming it is like, it's like you are in an army. You are in an army because when you go to film it, you got the crew there, you got sound, you got lights. Like, when we walk somewhere, it's like a convoy because we are there with like numerous cameras, sound, lights, everything. We are there for a specific reason. So it's and everything is scheduled because, we're paying people. That's another thing about TV is that everyone that is there is being paid for the hours they work. So for every hour you go outside of schedule or before that's another cost you're incurring. So when you get to the nitty gritty of making a show, money is important. Money, how much you're spending is important. So that's also something I had to keep in my mind, that everywhere we had to go, we had to be on time, do what we needed to in the exact. So that's why it felt like we were an army, because we are spending money. The more time we spend in Nigeria, the more money we're spending, if that makes sense. So we had to be exact in everything we're doing. So it was just an amazing experience, and yeah, with an amazing crew who knew what they were doing. Like, they knew what shots to get. Everyone was so exact and so knowledgeable of what they needed to. They've never been to the country, but they knew what they were there to do and could do it in an amazing amount of time. So yeah, we drove, we flew, we were on canoes, we're on boats, we did it all. We did it all. I could talk about the show for ages, but I'm just going to highlight some of my best bits. And the number one for me was going to northern Nigeria, because it's not a place a lot of people go to. It's not a place that a lot of people have access to. Even Nigerians were telling me, being like, "Why are you going to the north?" And we got to cover some amazing stories, like speaking to one of the girls who was kidnapped by Boko Haram, and she actually had a baby by one of the Boko Haram members, but she escaped with her baby. And the Boko Haram member actually left with her and the baby because he was sick and tired of being in Boko Haram and he wanted a change. So three of them actually fled Boko Haram. And speaking to her and her resilience and her strength, it wasn't like she was with Boko Haram for like a year or two. It was a good, I believe, 3 years she was with Boko Haram, because she was there. She was taken as a schoolgirl, and she got pregnant by one of the members. And yes, and she has a lovely daughter who was the sweetest, most amazing girl. And actually, me and the daughter got along so well. She didn't like any of the men on set, because I was the only female on set. So which is why it's very good to have a diverse cast, male and female, black, white, everything. Make it diverse, because the daughter actually did not like being around men, which I totally understand, someone. So yeah, she didn't like being around any of the men on the cast. So me and her had a lovely connection, so she, like, while her mom was doing the interview, I would hold her hand and make her feel comfortable. And so yeah, and also even Amina, who was the survivor, the mom, she too as well was not very comfortable around men and was more comfortable around me. And that again, so even all of that was, hearing her tell her story was just so incredible and so touching. And yeah, so that's just part of one of the snippets. And another reason where you should hire local you should hire people who are diverse and knowledgeable and local talent as well, because there were so many rules and regulations to visiting the Emir of Kano, which I was able to tell the crew, which is, you have to dress appropriately there, you have to you cannot say higher than the emir. So all those little snippets, I had like written everything down in a little in a little what we should know book for all the crew so they know. And also, while I'm talking about that, I wrote day notes for Michael on everywhere we went. I wrote who are they, and obviously Michael is so knowledgeable and he already did his research and knew so much about Nigeria before he even got there. But I still wrote like day notes about who are we speaking to? What's the history? Why is this significant? And why are we covering it? So yeah, the North was an amazing experience. We had another behind the scenes, because as people know, as people may or may not know, the north of Nigeria is, quite known for insurgency and Boko Haram, and a lot of, a lot of people think it's not the safest place to be. So what I noticed is that when we went to the north, we definitely had a lot more security than when we were in the south of Nigeria, like Lagos and so on. So yeah, so that was an amazing experience. And we actually another thing we did on the show in the north that I really enjoyed was taking the train from I believe, which was Kaduna to Abuja. A little inside tea into that said train that we took, 2 months before we got on that train, Boko Haram had hijacked that train and kidnapped people on it. So before we went on that train, everyone at ITN, everybody back in London, all the executive producers were so afraid. They were so afraid. We had to have like regular updates be like, hey, we're fine, we got on the train, because that was a very high risk. So when you go on trips like that, you have activities that you do are low risk. You have to fill out a risk assessment form. What things do you do that are low risk or mid risk and which is high risk? That was one of the most high risk things we've done, just because it had been a train that had been hijacked 2 months prior. But everyone was fine. We even got food on the train. I had meat pie and juice. And I was chilling, and Michael was chilling, and all the crew were chilling. So it was actually one of the most enjoyable stuff. But I could understand everyone's apprehension before we got on the train. So yeah, that's another tidbit about the north of Nigeria that was interesting. Another behind the scenes story that I have is when we were traveling on the road that is called the most dangerous road in Nigeria, and it was from it was the road into Benin City. Sorry to anyone from Benin, but our car actually stopped working on the road, and our security were not happy because we were stranded in the middle of the road, even though it was the afternoon, in Benin City, in on the road to Benin City, and just left in like in the middle of nowhere. And I remember, the things about this is that everyone, when you're on a crew, when you're with a crew and you're on a show together, everyone worries about different things. I kid you not, when I was in Nigeria, even, and we were traveling to all these, dangerous or places people have never been to, or, dangerous roads, and we're doing all of this, I did not have 1 ounce of fear, because I was worried about contributors, location, how do we have enough shots, do we have enough b-roll. I was worried about all of that. My fear was not about security. The security people, which we did have with us 24/7, we had 2 security cars, and which, again, another tidbit, our security were armed as well. They were law enforcement, Nigeria's local police, and so they were very much armed as well. So I was like, I don't have time in my brain to be worried if we're going to be kidnapped or not. I need to be worrying about our next location, our next contributor, our next story. That was what I was worried about the most. And, my boss too was worried about that. Security, we're just like, we'll let security worry about our security. So, while this is going on, the security was like, they're not panicking, because obviously this is their job, but they were quite worried that we're stranded on a road that is called the most dangerous road in the world because it's known for kidnapping. They were quite worried, and me and Neil were like, oh my God, are we going to have enough time to get to the next location, to film this? That was what our worry was about. But, that's why they're paid the big bucks. By the way, while I'm here, okay, security will take a large amount of money out of your budget, and because it's the most important thing. So anyone who is wanting to film in Africa, or film basically anywhere that is not as, anywhere that someone might say is high risk, security, having good security, and a security that will protect you, and and that would look at all the different situations that might happen, that will take a large amount of a big chunk of your budget will go to that. So any filmmakers out there, remember to leave money for good security, because that's one thing you cannot cheapen out. You can't camera and security, but especially security, you cannot cheapen out on security, and they're expensive. So that's just a little tidbit for people who are listening. So yeah, so I was like, so our security was, worried we were gonna get kidnapped and whatnot, but we're like, yeah, it's fine. Are we gonna get to our next location? What's going on? And so they then rang up the local police force, because, as I said before, it's the police force that were our security. They rang up the local police force, like the nearest to us, and be like, hey, can we borrow one of your cars? We are stranded here. And that car then came and grabbed all of us. So we were safe in the end. It was okay. Michael is good. And we were good. The crew were good. And through it all, through the dodgy stomachs of our crew, which was another thing we're battling behind the scenes. Yeah, everything looked good, but the crew was suffering, including I, with dodgy stomachs, because we're traveling on the road. we don't have time for like a 3 course sit down meal. So we're eating at like fast food restaurants and we're eating at hotels. So, our stomachs definitely did did feel that did feel all of that movement and all of so our stomachs did definitely suffer during the travel. So yes, so apart from Dodgy stomachs and everything, we had an amazing show. The 3-part series came out last year, and then I got to be on a panel. Well, me and Michael got to be on a panel at Chatham House, and we talked about the show. So, and then it was nominated for like 4 awards. Which I think we won one, and I got to go to the award shows, which was really nice. And all the hard work that went into it, it definitely paid off. And when the show came out, I've never been prouder. Like for me, that is the highlight of my career so far, because my soul, my spirit, every creative idea I had in my head went to that show, and I wanted it to be successful so bad because I wanted that role. I've never wanted anything more than I wanted that role. And in the end, it worked out. And so many people that after the show came out, some people in a little bit of a shady voice were asking me, "Oh, Lola, how did you get the job? Oh, Segi, how did you get the job?" I've just told you how I got the job. I didn't know anybody. It was just divine timing. That's how I put it. Divine timing and hard work and determination and I'm praying, basically. That's how I got the job. And yes, so that was my experience working on Michael Palin in Nigeria, the 3-part series, which you can still watch on I believe on ITV Player. I think you can watch it there. So please, if you do, and if you watch it, and I have a little bit, you can see me in the background. I have a 1 or 2 cameos in it, and which if you see, it's nice. If you want to watch me, I'm there as well. Yeah. So that is my experience working on that. And before I jumped into Michael Palin in Nigeria, the TV series, I also should point out that I worked on Knots and Crosses as a creative consultant on that. And that was also an amazing role. I worked with the director, Kobe, and basically my job was to basically to make sure that the African culture was represented appropriately on the show. So when it came to script work, when it came to how the language that was spoke on the show, because they wanted to insert some Yoruba words, how it was said. When it came to, just cultural things, I would advise on the show and be like, hey, if you want the show to feel authentic, this is how someone who's West African, this is how someone who's Nigerian would react. So that was my first time taking on a role as a consultant. Like basically I was, the writers, the costume, the prop, I was kind of their well of information they would like dip into, and they'd be like, hey, is this portraying the show accurately? And then I would say yes, or I would like, suggest what if we did this. And a part of it that I really did enjoy was the ADR. And ADR is when actors film, and when actors, they film live, obviously, but after that they go into ADR, which is like a kind of voiceover thing, and maybe say some of the sentences that didn't come out as strongly or as well on camera. They'll say it again over what has been filmed. So I sat in there and I did ADR for Michael Dappa. If you guys know him, he's a celebrity, so he was on the show. So I was in there and I was also advising Michael Dappa on how to say some things, because though they were using Yoruba words in the show. So and I think Michael Dapper is Ghanaian, so I was advising him as well. And also Jasmine Jobson, who actually won a BAFTA. She too was on the show. And then my job was to sit in ADR with them, basically I sat in with all the actors, and I would, while there, I'll be like, hey, this is how you say it. Or if you want to sound more West African, you want to sound more Nigerian, this is how you should do it. And that was an amazing experience, just being involved with that. And also I got to go on set as well while they filmed in London. And yeah, I got to go on set in London, and while they were filming, I would just like interject, or if they asked me any questions, I would like just advise them. So, yeah. And just my job was basically an advisory role. And I enjoyed it because, as I said, I'm a yapper. I love to yap. So I'm happy to advise people. And that has been my experience working in TV. So those have been my most significant roles so far. I haven't even touched into my role at NBC, what I did at ITV, but those are two of my most significant roles, which is Not in Crosses on BBC and Michael Palin in Nigeria. As you can tell from my experience, I love things that I love working on diverse stories and stories that are about African people and people of color, not just honestly people of color or people from underrepresented backgrounds. That is, it's my niche. It's what I love. And I don't know what to tell you, and I hope I can do more. And so before I wrap up, I know I've been chatting for a while. Before I wrap up and kind of like, tell you about a little bit about what to expect in the next episode, I'm going to talk about my favorite content for the week. So my favorite content for the week um, has been The American Murder of Gabby Petito. Am I saying that right? Gabby Petito, which is on Netflix. What do I like about this documentary? So this is a documentary on Netflix. I'll highly recommend it. So this section of the podcast, I'll just be saying two shows or two documentaries that I've been watching this week that I would highly recommend. And I recommend this one because you start the show knowing what's going to happen, but they still make you doubt yourself. So you're watching the show being like, oh, I know this guy did it. But you're like, but did he? Really? And the way they use archive footage and footage content from social media to really tell the story is exquisite. So I would definitely recommend you watch it. And it's a story about domestic abuse, but done in a different way because you know it's this person, but the way the person goes about it, the way so in the story, there's a lot of gaslighting that is done to the victim. And you watching it, you yourself are almost gaslighted by the perpetrator because you're like, wait, is it you or is it not you that did this? So I would definitely recommend it. It's a good watch and very enjoyable. And also, another content that I would recommend is the last season of Love is Blind. A lot of people say it's the most boring season so far, but I would definitely recommend it just because I feel like this is the season where we've talked a lot about American politics and just where people stand politics wise and how they see life, and there's a lot about race as well. So politics and race, which are topics that are not usually dwelled on in other seasons, were dwelled on in this season. So it's definitely a season I'll definitely recommend if you have, just to watch it and just understand it. It's just understanding our world right now and where people stand and understanding their reasoning is definitely a show to watch because you watch it and be like, oh, okay, it's a little bit slower than the others, but it definitely gets you thinking a bit more about the world we live in right now. And thank you so much for listening. I have, really thoroughly enjoyed talking to you about my experience. So, yeah, so it's been a wonderful episode. I hope you listen to the other ones. I hope you enjoy it. I want this to feel very warm and very honest. So, if there's something you want me to talk about more in the next episode, if there's something that you're like, oh, Lola, I actually don't like this part of this section of the podcast, you need to talk more about this. All criticism is welcome, as long as it's said in a nice way, because I'm a sensitive girl. But as long as it's said in a nice way, all criticism is welcome. So, I'm just starting off now. I'm open to people's suggestions, whatever you want to see more or whatever you want me to talk about more, just let me know. And yeah, and that is it for me this episode. You were listening to my TV journey with Lola, and I'm gonna have some amazing producers, directors, and content creators on this podcast over, over the season. We're gonna be worldwide, baby. We're international. So yeah, so just hang tight, please. Go on this journey with me. I love creating content so much, and I am this whole episode, I was nervous. I'm nervous, I'm excited. I'm really, I'm just really happy to be doing this in this phase of my life. This is the most peaceful I have felt in my life to be doing this right now. I'm very happy. I feel like it's the right time. So I really do hope you guys just, strap on for this journey with me. And yeah, I really do hope you guys enjoy and listen to the next episode. It's been amazing. I've enjoyed this. I love doing this. So please give me encouragement so I can keep doing this. I really, really do love it from the bottom of my heart. I cannot imagine being in any other industry than this, or not being able to create content. So I'm so grateful, and I'm so happy to be here with you guys. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode. See you in the next episode with an amazing guest. Thank you. See you next episode. It's been real. Thank you for listening to my TV journey with Lola. Bye bye. Mwah. Bye.